Hi guys, my name is Jenna. If you guys are new here, welcome back to my channel and welcome to a long-awaited coffee chat video. There's a lot of new faces on this channel, so if you guys are new, welcome. I thought that since we just passed 25,000 subscribers, this was a perfect time to do a career coffee chat video, answering your guys' questions about my YouTube career, my corporate career, because I do work full-time while also doing like YouTube full-time too. So I thought I'd take this morning to answer your guys' questions, have like a career coffee chat video, just you and me talking, more FaceTime style, but I really want this video to be something that you guys can come back to if you guys are new to my channel and you're like, what is your job? If you guys just overall had any questions about how I got my job, like what industry I'm in, my education background, how I got my job, and then just answering your questions on how I've been able to balance YouTube for the past like 2.5 years. 2.5 years? Oh my gosh, it has been 2.5 years. That's so weird, but I've been doing YouTube full-time for the last 2.5 years while also working, and I am here to answer your guys' questions. I have a bunch of questions saved. I looked at them all last night and I just like organized everything, and we have a lot to go through today. I'll have timestamps too for every single question, along with like a corporate section, which is the beginning, and then a YouTube section, which is the second part. So if you guys want to hang out with me this morning, talk about career, corporate, YouTube, have some tea or coffee, then let's just go ahead and get started. I am a full-time strategist, and I explain this later on, just like the nuances and stuff of my job, but I do work at an accounting firm full-time. I work 9 to 5, and I'm not a CPA and I'm not an accountant, but I just work at an accounting firm. I work internally. I used to work 2 years in consulting at this company. I actually interned at this company back in college, but I have since moved internally to be a market research or market intelligence strategist. And essentially that means I do industry research, geography research, service line research, competitor research, just any type of research that involves my company's industry, which is accounting firms and the services that they offer. My team does research to deliver support to decision makers of our company. So it involves a lot of market research at the end of the day, a lot of slide decks / reports / PowerPoints, Word doc memos, Excel matrices and stuff. That's like a little bit of what my job actually is. So that is my job. Okay, I think a lot of you guys are wondering, do you want to eventually leave corporate and do YouTube full time? Where do you see yourself in 5 years for YouTube or corporate? Would you ever leave your corporate job if YouTube got big, or at what point would you quit your job to do YouTube full time? I want to answer this all right now, and I'm going to be as like transparent as possible, but I do think that since I do put myself on like a public platform, I need to like protect my peace and my privacy. But I will say that in terms of me seeing myself like long term in my career as a working professional, like somebody making money, that's what having a job means. You make money, and having a corporate job and YouTube job has given me two different, like very different experiences on what it's like to make money, both for myself, but also like from an employer. Eventually, I want to say like never say never. I have no idea, honestly, where I am in 5 years in my career. I have plans on maybe where I would be in the next like 1 or 2 years in my job. I want to eventually be a manager at my team, and I see myself honestly at the company that I work at for a very long time. Like if I were to ever leave my job, like my full-time accounting firm job, then I wouldn't just go to a similar company. If anything, I would leave corporate to do something completely different, like YouTube, or going back to school, or teaching, or getting my real estate license, or just doing anything like totally different. I think that for me personally, I'm too young to just kind of like pivot around in a bunch of the same type of companies. I want to have new experiences, if ever, in my career. So all of that to say that I don't see myself leaving my team like anytime soon. I finally feel like I have a good groove on what it's like to be in this team, to excel in this team, and to eventually like make a leadership position for myself. I feel like I can only really do that for a team that I've been working in for at least like 2 years. That's what I'm working towards in terms of my job. I don't see myself honestly leaving my corporate job anytime soon, unless something like completely out of my control or just completely out of my plan were to ever happen with my YouTube, where it would seem kind of stupid to not take that opportunity. That's the only time that I would consider it. But honestly, like I really like my job. It's very chill. I feel myself excelling. I feel myself gaining new skills. I feel myself gaining confidence in the skills that I've learned in the last 2 years, and honestly, I just want to keep that going. And I do have myself and my partner to support during this time while Thomas is in medical school. You guys know that, and that's honestly really in the back of my head all the time. So I'm very content, honestly, at my corporate job. I've been honestly like making efforts to have more leadership positions at my role, which like I said, I can really only do in a team that I've been at if I want to like do it with the trust of my team. So I think that answered all of the questions about like, would you ever leave your job? Blah, blah. I think people are always really curious, but I do also want to say that having a full-time corporate job and doing YouTube full-time, I am working 2 jobs, and sometimes it feels like 2 full-time jobs. And I know I'm not the only person that works 2 full-time jobs, but I don't want to be someone that's like prideful of having so many jobs, or someone that feels like I'm like better than or whatever because I work over 40 hours every week. I eventually want to get to a point in my life, and this is like 5-10 years down the line, where I'm working 1 job and that I can pursue other passions that I want to put more energy into. But I feel like I have 2 jobs. Luckily, one of those jobs is such a big passion of mine, and another job like gives me the freedom and the will and like the monetary freedom to do other things in my life, like YouTube. 5 or 10 years down the line, I'm just gonna want 1 job, and I want to have a healthy 40-hour work week so that I can pursue other passions that don't really feel like a job, but ways that I want to devote my energy into. So it would be like learning Korean fully. That's something that I've always wanted to do, that I feel like I truthfully like just don't have the extra time or bandwidth or energy to really put what I think I need to learn it. So that was a very long-winded answer for all of these questions, but you guys are really asking a lot, like, are you gonna leave your job? No, I'm not gonna leave my job. I think that for anybody that's at a job and doesn't have YouTube, it's okay to think like, what do I want next in my career? Basically, like, what other skills do I want to add to my professional toolkit? And I think that's totally okay. So maybe some of you guys are asking not just to be nosy, but because you want to know how long you plan on staying at your current job. I think that you should stay at your job so long as you feel like you're learning, you're growing, you're gaining new skills that you wouldn't learn otherwise, and you like those skills that you're learning, so that you're eventually gaining like expertise on how to do everything. But that is my long-winded like career update. I know you guys are very, very curious about it. The second most asked question after like, am I gonna leave my corporate job, is how do you balance social corporate life, uploading on YouTube, and how do you manage that mental shift between doing your job and then doing like what feels like another job? So honestly, I say that I have 2 jobs because I have devoted myself to consistency of my upload schedule, with some give here and there if I want to take a video off. But I think that a big piece of advice that I have is that if you're serious about your YouTube channel, or if you just want to pursue it for like X period of time, you have to devote that into your routine, and you have to like ingrain that into your lifestyle. So I have my job, and I can't really slack on my job because I get paid every 2 weeks. I have deliverables and people, and like that's easy to think that like, yes, I work 9 to 5 no matter what, like that's never going to change. But when it comes to maintaining my YouTube, I have to ingrain it so hard into my lifestyle that like it's just something I don't even really have to think about anymore. It's just, I have my corporate week and I have my YouTube week, because I see it as investing in myself, and it's a career that I'm completely making on my own. I want to give my all as best as I can. So since YouTube's not my only job, I can't like devote 1000% into it. But I do think that ingraining my upload schedule and just like knowing that I will upload 2 videos every single week, it's like a whole lifestyle shift. It's like incorporating a new diet or something. It's not really something that I can change in my head, because that's me investing in myself. So a lot of you guys have been hearing me in the last couple of videos, because I've been trying to speak about it more, is you just have to choose your priority. If social life, corporate life, YouTube, and like being in a relationship and having friends and family, those are all different priorities in my life. Those are all things that I think bring me value and they're worth putting energy into. You just have to segment your life in the way that chooses the biggest priority. That's really how you choose. It's just knowing what your priorities are, knowing that they're all kind of weighted the same, and choosing which day you'll focus on 1 or 2 priorities. So I know that Monday through Friday, I have to focus on my 9 to 5, but I'm also working on my YouTube throughout the whole week, the whole weekend. And so usually that means that I have to make less social plans, and that's like a big plan of mine and a big like intention for the next month. I tend to overdo it on my social plans, and burnout is something that I really don't want to feel this year. So I'm trying my best to be mindful of like not overfilling my cup, that yes, friends and family, social life, YouTube, my job, my relationship, all of those things fill my cup. But if I overpour, then I can't do any of it. I think just like being mindful of knowing that YouTube is a part of my lifestyle the same way that like eating is and working is and seeing my friends. I just have to pick and choose and be really strict with myself of when I'm doing what, when, if that makes sense. So that is my biggest piece of advice on like how I do it all. I definitely don't do it all perfectly. I've been telling you truthfully that I've been pretty stressed for the last 2 weeks since going on vacation, because I just feel like life like doesn't stop, and it's really hard to balance everything. I don't want to make it look easy, but I think something that helps me sustain it is just knowing that YouTube is a part of my lifestyle, just in the same way that eating and sleeping and working my 9 to 5 is also a part of my lifestyle. So those were the two like big hitter topics that I hope addressed most of your questions. But now let's just get into the more specific questions. And again, this is going to be all corporate questions, and then we'll go into more specific YouTube related questions afterwards. But what internships did you have in college, and how did you apply for internships? What is that process that you used? So I do have a separate video where I talked about this, but it's pretty old at this point. I think it's from like 2021, but that information has not changed because that's like all in the past. I graduated from the University of Maryland with a finance degree, but I actually went into college being a gov major, and there was this whole process of like applying to the business school if you wanted to change your major at Maryland. So I did that process. I applied, I got in. I basically just had to take like the prereqs and get like good enough grades on it, like B's or up. Changed my major. And when I changed my major, I was a sophomore. So I was like, oh my gosh, like I feel behind. Like people already know their major. What do I do now that I've changed my major? So the first thing that I did was I went on my university's like career portal where they post like job openings and internship openings just for University of Maryland business school students. So that's how I found my company and my internship. They were offering summer internships, and I just like mass applied to a bunch of like internships and externships. Externship is really just like a short internship, but I applied to a bunch of those, did a bunch of those, and then ultimately I landed on accepting an offer at an internship with my current company. So that was the summer before my senior year of college that I did the internship, and it was a lot of fun. And that's what that process was like. It was really just going on my business school's like career portal and applying for stuff through that, because I didn't even know that they had that, but I think that's just like a really amazing resource to find job opportunities and internship opportunities right away. Companies want students above all. I think it's honestly a lot harder to apply as like an experienced hire or to get an internship post-grad. You just have to like apply to jobs post-grad. So that's how I got my internship. It was in college through my career portal, and yeah, that's how that went. But that's not the only internship I had in college. I had the internship at the accounting firm. I had an internship at a government contracts company. I had an internship at a real estate office. I interned for a judge when I was younger. And I feel like internships and shadowing is kind of like the only way for you to get an idea of what that job is actually like after college. It's really easy to watch videos or to like read your textbook or talk to other people about what certain job industries are like. But I really think you can really only know for yourself if you see it for yourself. So you have to shadow, just reach out, like cold call, email or call people, connect with people on LinkedIn, see if there's any shadowing opportunities, or if you just want to say, hey, I just want to like talk to you about what your day-to-day is, connect with them, maybe see if you can go in one day, like make those organic relationships and network through your university or your LinkedIn network. And that's how you'll get those internships. But yeah, those are all of my internships that I've had. What are the main skills that you need to effectively do your job? So I would say that my job as a go-to-market strategist or like internal consultant at my job is that I do basically a bunch of industry, geographies, service line, competitor research, just overall like market research for the decision makers of my accounting firm. So no, I'm not an accountant. I don't have a CPA. Even though I worked in finance, like I just made that internal shift in my company a couple of years ago, and I have a whole separate video about that too, where you guys can listen in. Ultimately, my job now involves a lot more market research, because what I do is I provide that research to the decision makers of my company so that they can figure out what their next service offering is, or what industry they want to go to next, or what geography they want to go to next. Just anything related to like big decisions by the company leaders. That's what my team does. We provide support so that leaders can make the right decisions. So the skills: market research, intelligence tools, communication skills, because you have to present your research findings to the decision maker. Big data analysis, when you basically have like the whole internet to look into for your research. You have to figure out like what's the most efficient way to gather that research well. So doing big data analysis is also really important too. And another aspect of my team is working with Power BI or visual dashboarding tools. Did you ever work in office Monday through Friday, or have you always been hybrid? So I actually worked in office Monday through Friday for around 9 months. I started my job right after I graduated in 2019. in August. I had like the summer, and then I started my job in August. So that was 2019. That was pre-pandemic. So yes, I was in the office 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, from August 2019 to March of 2020. So when the pandemic hit and we all worked from home, everything just kind of changed after that. And I've since changed teams fully. So now my whole entire team, my new team, is fully remote. Most of my team is actually in the Midwest or like mid-Atlantic. I don't know. Most of the people are in like Chicago and Wisconsin. So now I work fully remote, but I can go into the office if I want to, just to see people from my old team. But yes, I did work 5 days in office for around 9 months. Are you doing what you went to school for? So I hope that answers your question. I went to school for finance, and no, I think that there's a big misconception that if you have a degree in finance and that means you must be an investment banker or like financial analyst. But no, my internship was very like accounting and finance based, probably more accounting than finance. Had I stayed in my old job, the one that I had the internship and my full-time job right after for, I probably should have gotten an accounting degree, but no, I'm not doing what I went to school for. I had no idea what like market research was or market intelligence was back in college. How do you feel about office goofs or mess ups? I find myself always messing up lately. I would say don't worry. I mess up all the time. And I think you just have to remind yourself that even your leader that you respect and you look up to so much, they mess up a lot too. And maybe they just hide it better, but I think messing up is a part of learning and growing, and it's just a part of the job. If you never made mistakes and you were so good at your job, then I feel like it's almost like a waste of time unless you're like so far advanced in your career that you're teaching other people how to do your job. So I would say don't worry about the goofs. If you're doing more than you think you usually would, then I would say probably take some PTO or some time off because you're getting to the borderline of being burnt out if you're making mistakes that you otherwise wouldn't. So don't worry about office goofs. They're not that bad. I make them all the time, and I just kind of laugh it off and like acknowledge it with my manager and say, next time I will not do that again. So yeah, don't worry. Cut yourself some slack. It's fine. Have you ever felt stuck in a career and don't know where else to go / when does it feel right to move on from a job? I'm gonna link again my 2 videos where I explained my life update when I was quitting my job versus my education career path. But I would say I was feeling stuck in my last job, and that's how I knew I was kind of ready to move on from it. I just felt like the skills that I was gaining at that point was no longer serving me, and it wasn't giving me enough value that I would like to speak to years down the line. And ultimately, I think what led me to leave my last job was I was working with my director / partner on like a very small project. So I was working with like the best of the best in my team. And I just feel like I saw what my future would look like before my eyes. Like I really respected my partner and I really respected my director, and I really liked working with them, but the knowledge that they knew with the government contracts industry, which is what I used to be in consulting for, I just didn't really want to know that industry expertise. Like I didn't really care to know the why so much, and I feel like because of that, that's how I knew that I was done. So I would say that if you're feeling stuck or you don't know like when it's time to move on, I think it'll feel right when you don't feel like you're really gaining value in the skills that you're learning anymore in your day-to-day. But if you don't know where else to go, I would say talk to your mentors and ask them about their career path, like how they found their next jobs. But also like you really have to ask yourself like, why do you not know where to go? Go on LinkedIn, go on Indeed, really kind of explore what other jobs you think you might be interested in. And if you don't know what job, think about the skills that you want to add to your resume that you don't already have, and find jobs that will gain those skills. That's my biggest advice there. I think it's really easy to feel stuck, and it's really easy to feel like I don't know what to do next, but I just know I don't like this. But you just have to be proactive and talk to people and try to like not be in that state. And I think it's really on you ultimately to know that it's time to move on, and just like coming to terms with it, accepting it, and just making sure you're making the right decision because you've talked to like ex-mentors. So yeah, I'd say that's my advice there. How to create a routine for general work from home tips. I would say still give yourself like a stopping time. So I think that it's easy to feel like you're working all the time if you're taking a lot of breaks throughout your day and you're taking those often so that you have to log off at like 8 p.m. But I would say honestly, try your best to do personal things in the morning before work, sign on at 9, give yourself a lunch break, and then just get off at 5. Like get off at 5. Just because we work from home doesn't mean we need to work later than 5. I would say just create your routine knowing your hard stopping times, and that will help a lot because it's just so easy to feel like, oh my God, I can do my laundry, I can go grocery shopping, I can basically like just do nothing while working all day, and then I actually have to work like at night. So try not to do that. I feel like there must be a term for it, like work from home creep or something, but I would say that's my biggest piece of advice. Create your routine through creating your start and your stopping times. Am I missing out if I'm not social at work? How should I start getting in? and how do you maintain professional relationships, especially when networking and working with mentors? So, okay, I put these two questions together because I do think they're very related. I think first, evaluate what industry you're in. Is being social like a part of the job almost, or is it a part of the industry? So for example, when I was doing consulting, being social was a big part of it because not only were you working with people in bigger teams, but I think that people that you probably had closer relationships with, you were more likely to work with, especially for managers and above. And then eventually when you gain those relationships with the clients, which I never got there because I left my job as a senior consultant, I think that just being social and going to events is a really good way to create those client relationships with the company or the firm that you represent and that client. So I think that just depending on your industry, being social will come at like a wave of being more important or less important, because it was really important in consulting. And I would just say like consulting in general, being social is very important just because like you want to maintain good relationships and like put your best foot forward in like all different ways. But I would say that for my job now, it's not as important to be as social, but I do think that being social is important working wherever you are, just maintaining like just being someone who's pleasant to work with or someone who's not like, I guess, uncomfortable talking to if you're like waiting for someone to get on a meeting. I think that it just makes the job a lot easier and it makes you more like pleasant to work with, which I think is always good in your job. But I do think that the relationships and mentorships that you create through being social at your job is what's really important when like you're actually thinking about your career path. So for me, when I was contemplating leaving my last job, I had to ask my mentors, and some of those were people that were like I worked with on my own team. But having people over time to go to when you have career advice, that's I think really the value of being social at work. You get those relationships, you maintain them through like always checking in every couple months or something, or just like overall asking how people are doing. I think an easy way to maintain those relationships that you do create while being social at your job is just through like checking in from time to time and not losing that relationship, but just really doing like check-ins like maybe quarterly or something and just saying like you wanted to check in. I think that's kind of the easiest way to maintain it, and connecting on LinkedIn if it's people outside of your job, and just like connecting overall. It's like a whole different battlefield when you're in corporate because you want to maintain relationships in your job, outside your job, and other firms and stuff too. I think overall it can really only benefit you if you do have like relationships outside of work that are like professional relationships. So if I had to answer, are you missing out not being social at work? I would err on the side of yes. Advice for people who feel like they're drifting at work and don't know what their passion is, I would say you just have to like kind of explore different things, like take fun classes, do things with friends, like just really think about like what you would want to do. I feel like I can't really give like that advice. A lot of these things, you guys, you just have to ask yourself, why don't I know the answer to this? Like, why am I asking Jenna to answer this question? I don't know. I really only feel like I started doing YouTube because it was something that I wanted to do. So I would ask yourself, like, what do you want to do outside of your job? What are things that you want to learn how to do, or like skills? It could be like knitting. It doesn't have to be like a whole separate career, but what are things that you want to do or you want to learn outside of your job? And especially if you're drifting, I think that having a balance with a passion and your job actually kind of works really well together. It's like creating a synergy. You'll work better at your job if you know that you have something outside of your job that you are putting energy into, that you are proud of. So yeah, I'd say that that's my biggest piece of advice. Just ask yourself, like, what do I want to do? What do I want to do? You know? Do you think about applying somewhere else for better pay? No, I personally don't, just because I don't think there's that much value in getting paid more, and I don't think that getting paid more will make me like a certain job better. But I do know a lot of people that think that way, so I understand why you're asking. I think that, again, you just have to ask yourself, like, how much value do I put into how much money I'm making, and like, is my worth and my pride and my job and my happiness really going to be dependent on making like $10,000 more dollars? It's definitely part of it, but for me, it's like maybe 10% of my happiness, like how much money I'm making here versus how much more I can be making somewhere else. Like, it'd be nice to make more, of course, but that's not why I'm going to leave, because there's so much more than making money at a job. There's your team, there's the dynamic, there's how independent your work is. There's just so many different aspects than the paycheck that I think the paycheck should really only be like 15% of its actual value at your job. This one person asked 2 questions. How to deal with societal pressure, feeling like you should do more but you're content, / I think I want to stay in my same job my whole life, but that's not the norm of my generation. If this is you watching, if you are content at your job and you know that you want to be like the highest point of leadership at your job, and you know you want to stay at this job for your whole life, stay at that job. Stay at that job. If you're happy and you want to stay at that job and you see yourself staying at that job, stay at that job. I think that the biggest reason why people leave their jobs is because they are unhappy and they don't see a future with it. It's not just about making more money, or maybe that's really just me, but I think the main reason why people leave their jobs is because they're seeking some other type of fulfillment that their job isn't currently giving them. So if you feel that way, stay in that job. Stay in that job so long as you feel that way. Any advice for someone who's recently laid off by their corporate job and struggling to find another job? / any tips for new grads looking for their job? First off, I'm sorry for anybody that's going through any layoffs. Anytime I see a headline about like tech layoffs, or there were even layoffs in my industry in accounting, man, I feel very blessed and very lucky, very, very lucky and grateful to still have a job today through any type of like layoff wave. But I would say that if you were laid off, consider a whole new industry, consider a whole new job, and think about how you can generalize the skills from your last job so that it can fit a different industry or a different job description, because I think that layoffs give you an opportunity to start over. And I think that seeing it that way hopefully will help you find new jobs. Don't just try to find the same job. Try to find something new. And even if you're like 30, 40, whatever, like try something new. One of my most respected mentors in my career that I've ever known used to be an elementary school teacher before she was a partner at this firm. So I would say just like try something new, try to find different jobs, do resume workshops. If you're having trouble finding jobs, do resume workshops and just Google like resume workshop, or do like a resume scan, or have someone that you look up to look at your resume. Just like kind of make sure you're doing those actions while asking yourself like, what jobs do I want to apply for? But I would say like do your checks and make sure that your resume looks good, your skills look good, you're practicing your interview skills, all of that stuff. The job process is so exhausting, but just try all of those things and I hope the best for you. I'm sorry that you got laid off. Feeling guilty when I go off work on time or when I don't go overtime. Tips. I would say I used to struggle with this a lot because I naturally am someone that cares and naturally someone that like wants to help my team and wants to do better at my job every single day. But I've just had to tell myself that I do not get paid to work more. So me doing more is just me going the extra mile, and that should not be a normal thing. If I want to go the extra mile for a deadline or for like learning something new at my job that my team is depending on or something, then I'll go overtime. But having that be a norm in your job will only lead to burnout. So don't feel guilty that you're basically trying to make sure you don't reach the point of burnout. That's how I would try to see that. Don't feel guilty. It's easy to feel guilty, and I understand because like we naturally just care about our jobs, I think, or at least I would hope to think we do. But just know that you don't get paid to work more. Remind yourself that, and know that you will be working that overtime or extra mile when you need to, but only when you need to, not every day. What would your dream career be if money wasn't a factor? I have like literally no idea. My dream career growing up was being a lawyer, but now like I have literally zero interest, like negative interest in being a lawyer. So I feel like my dream career honestly is to just like live a fulfilling life and work a 40-hour work week. That's it. Okay, those are all of my corporate questions. I hope that was clear for you guys, and I hope I gave good advice. Let me know, but those are all of the corporate questions. And now for YouTube specific questions. How long have you been doing YouTube, and what moment made you think it's worth it / something you're proud of? It's a really good question. I've been doing YouTube since October of 2020. It was kind of like my post-pandemic, like, okay, I just got through the summer, like what should I do now? And a lot of people were making bread. A lot of people were doing this and that. I made a YouTube channel because it was something that I had always wanted to do in my life. I've been watching YouTube since like middle and high school. So that was when I started. October of 2020, it was right after my birthday, and I just went for it. And I never looked back. I think the moment that made me think it was worth it was probably reaching 1,000 subscribers. When you start out, you're so small, and all you want is 1 subscriber. And for me, I looked back on this. I thought I had reached 1,000 subscribers 6 months in, but I looked back and I actually reached 1,000 subscribers 4 months in. And I think once I reached that very first milestone of like a 4-figure subscriber count, that's when I knew that, oh my God, wait, I think I'm good at this. This makes me feel happy and fulfilled and proud. And yeah, I think it was the 1,000 subscribers. That's when I like knew that I was meant to do this and that I felt good doing it. Was it hard starting a YouTube channel? Like, yes and no. I think that once I actually got over the hump of like people I know are going to be watching this, like people are probably going to make fun of me. I know of people that have made fun of me for starting my YouTube channel, but I just think that it's such a challenge already to put yourself out there, and it's very brave because you're basically opening the door for people to judge you when you do put yourself on the internet, and that's like a really big thing to be afraid of, and that's very intimidating. So there's definitely a lot of value in that. It's just a matter of time before you tell yourself, I'm not going to care anymore. I'm not going to let other people control what I want to do in my life. It was hard because I had all of those fears, but it really was just a mindset shift to tell myself, this isn't that hard. It won't be that bad. I'm just going to start a channel and just like go for it. I think that's like the best way to take back control of your own life. But is it hard to maintain it? Yes. Of course it is. And I try to like bring you guys along my life and like be happy for the sake of like me being a happy person. But yeah, of course it's hard to maintain my YouTube channel. I just feel tired all the time. Like I said, because I have my full-time job, I'm always just kind of working around my working hours to do more work on YouTube, and doing 2 videos a week is very much a routine, and it does get really hard at times. Like you guys saw for basically all of 2022, I was like so unwell. But that's because I wasn't setting myself up for success. I got burnt out because I wasn't planning out my content. I wasn't preparing myself, and I wasn't like setting myself up to have a good month or a good year on YouTube. I was just kind of like, I'm just gonna go for it and do my best like day by day, which is not sustainable long term for something that you want to put as much energy into like a job. It's hard to maintain, but you just have to like tell yourself like, I can do it, I can do it, I can do it, and I can set myself up to do it well. It gets a little easier, but it is really hard. Advice on working with brands as a content creator / reaching out, doing gifted versus paid partnerships. Sorry, my nose is itchy. I don't do enough outreach because I do have a job, and that's like something that like if I were doing YouTube full-time, if I was just a freelancer, I would do a lot of company outreach and like brand outreach. I don't do any brand outreach now just because I think opportunities that come into my inbox are opportunities that are coming to me, not opportunities that I'm like seeking so much, because solely I don't have the energy or time to do that. But I do think that when you're just starting out, I did a lot of gifted collaborations, and I still do them today just because like I think that establishing that relationship with a brand, maybe it does have to be gifted at first, because usually gifted collaborations do lead to paid partnerships because they saw like the effect and the result of how that gifted partnership went. It's usually just like a test run for the brands. I wish they didn't do that. Like I wish it was just like, we want to pay you, creator, to promote our product, as like marketing and advertising should be. Like, I don't know why everything is so free now. Unfortunately, that's just the name of the game. That's just how the industry works. Start with gifted if it's a brand that you love and you know you love, or you're genuinely interested in trying out. Do it gifted. Like, if it's not your job, then like, why not? You don't have to like be so hard on yourself to make money if you're just starting out. That's what I did. My first collaboration was gifted, and then that turned into like 10 more paid sponsorships. I feel like a lot of people say like, don't do anything for free. And I wish that would be true, but it's not. How did you develop your editing style, and did you take any courses to watch or any specific videos on editing? So this, I don't think I've ever actually talked about this, but that's how I found Becca Watson. I had just downloaded Final Cut Pro. I bought it. I was using like LumaFusion on my iPad, editing on my iPad and stuff before that. And once I decided to actually like buy myself a MacBook Pro, buy myself Final Cut Pro, and like amp up my editing skills, I was like, how do you even work this platform? Like, how do you use this? I don't know. And so I searched on YouTube a tutorial on how to use Final Cut Pro and how someone edits using Final Cut Pro. And that's how I found Becca Watson, which is crazy. And she had like less than, I think like 50,000 subscribers back then. And now she literally has like 200,000. She's amazing. But I would say watch Becca Watson's video, and there's other creators too. I'll link them in the description box if I can remember like which ones I watched. But I just went through like a massive binge of how I use Final Cut Pro, how I edit my videos. There was no specific person other than Becca, just because that's when I was like, wow, I love this person, like aside from how she edits. But you just have to learn over time, like the basic foundation, and then over time you find your own style just by being creative and spending time editing. That's what I love about YouTube. It is the editing process, just because like it's such a creative outlet, and like you can do whatever you want. No one's telling you how to brand yourself on YouTube. It's just truly like all your choice. And I love that part about making videos. It's probably my favorite part, is editing. Yeah, that's how I made my editing style. It was just all made by me, but Becca Watson is how I found like how to edit on Final Cut Pro. Okay, last couple questions. There's actually not that many YouTube questions, but how to approach branding in an authentic way. I think that's a really interesting question, how to approach branding yourself. Hopefully that's what you mean, in an authentic way. I usually just ask myself like, how am I with my friends and family? And that's how I want to be on my YouTube, because that's the vibe and like that's the environment that I want for my YouTube channel. I want it to feel like someone's working with a friend or hanging out with a friend or FaceTiming a friend. So I just talk to you guys how I would talk to my friends, and that takes time. At first you just have to get comfortable like talking to a camera and like talking to yourself almost, because like you look at yourself sometimes. I think your branding starts with how you speak and how you present yourself. I think I just try my best to be like, yes, like professional, but like it's less professional. I'm just like, when I say professional, I just mean like I don't really curse a lot and I try not to ramble too much, and I try to be like concise with how I speak. But in terms of like my tone and like my demeanor, I'm talking to a friend, and I really like that because I think it creates like a cozy environment for my videos. But when it comes to like fonts and branding in that way, like I said, that's all part of the creative process, and it's all just like trial and error of like what feels like right to you in terms of how you want to edit and how you want to do your font style, and how do you want to have an intro card or end card. Those are really all decisions that you can toy with for like the rest of your YouTube career. So I would say that branding is like a really fluid thing, but in terms of like specifically making YouTube videos and how I present myself, I'm just talking to a friend. I'm thinking of starting a YouTube channel, but I have a full-time job and I'm a little scared / advice for starting out on YouTube and having an office job. I feel like I talked about the second question already. You just have to like really ingrain it into your lifestyle and tell yourself like, from now moving forward, I'm devoting 2 videos a week, and like with some give here and there, but that should really just be like a fraction of the time, so long as you're mentally stable enough to do that, because it's a lot of work. Just don't mention anything in regards to like having a passion or a hobby or anything outside of work. When you talk to your coworkers, I think that like no one has to know, and just don't follow any of your coworkers on social media, or maybe like block them. Or start like a new Instagram if you want to promote somewhere else, and just like keep it private. Like it doesn't have to be something that your coworkers know about. Just keep it private to you, especially when you're starting out, and then when you do become more proud of it, or if you do see yourself as something that you want to sustain in your lifestyle, then you should tell your company and your coworkers. So yeah, I would say like don't be scared. Don't be scared. It's not their life, it's yours. Okay, very last question, and it's a juicy question. I saved it for the end, but are you worried about your coworkers watching your channel, and is your company okay with it? Dun, dun, dun. Okay, it's not a big deal, you guys. Yes, my coworkers do know about my channel. I do have a coworker who watches like all of my videos. Emily, if you're watching, let me know what you thought of this video. Yeah, my coworkers know about my channel. My manager knows about my channel. My company knows about my channel. So it's not a big deal, and it's totally okay. You just have to like go by the guidelines of your company and just make sure that it is known so that it's okay. But yes, my coworkers know, my leaders know, and they're probably not watching every single video. And like on all of my Work to Live diaries videos, like I literally blur out my screen. A lot of times I'm just blurring out like me logging off or me taking a break. I'm not actually vlogging me working. It's really just for the sake of getting like B-roll and having like a cohesive job. But I vlog on my breaks, and you're allowed like a 1-hour work break throughout your whole day. And so usually if I'm vlogging my work weeks, I just don't take a lunch break. I take like a 5-10 minute lunch break because I am vlogging that day. But yes, my coworkers do know, and I really don't care. Okay, well, those are all of the questions. I hope you guys enjoyed this career coffee chat video. I was talking a lot. I think I have like an hour worth of me talking, so I'm gonna have to figure that out. There's timestamps for everything. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I hope you guys like know me a little bit better too, just on like how I approach my job and my YouTube and what my job even is and stuff. Make sure you're subscribed if you're not already. I post new videos every Tuesdays and Fridays. I love you guys so much. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys in my next video, but until then, miss you already.